Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's paddle chat. We've got Colin tonight, and I was just saying to him that I've actually read his book, and those that know me know that was quite a feat for me to actually sit down for long enough to read a book. Really interesting, and I can't recommend that book highly enough.
Right, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's great to see some people I know up there and other people I don't, but yeah, it's great to see everyone. So this evening, I was going to talk a bit about coastal paddling and basically through some of my own experiences and how I've learnt how to paddle at sea and in a coastal environment. I was going to do it through a bit of a PowerPoint with a bit of video, and it will take us through the really basic paddling at sea in really calm conditions, right through to sailing a canoe, and then to some really big crossings and adventures. So that's how I intend to do it. It's not instructional, so I am no coach or anything like that. I'm no Ray Goodwin. However, what I will do is try and impart a bit of my learning, things that I've learnt just through trial and error, really. One thing I will say though is I do have Ray's book here. Can you see this? So we've all got Ray's book. So all I would say is this is the benchmark of paddling a canoe. To start paddling at sea, you just need to add others to it. And so from Ray's book, Learning How to Paddle a Canoe, then I read this book, which is a really interesting book, and it's the Sea Kayaking by Franco Ferrero. That's a really interesting book. And another one is this one here, Gordon Brown's Kayaking. I mention that because there's loads of good stuff in there, and if you are really keen on getting out into a coastal environment, that's what I would recommend you start reading. So I'm now going to probably do the hardest thing of the evening for me. I'm trying to get onto my share screen. So the final book I want to mention, I've got to plug it, and that's my own book, and I think it's already a good plug anyway. So the picture that you've got there is what I think a lot of people think of as a coastal environment, in that you've got waves and things. I tend to think there's a lot more to paddling around the coast than just big waves and banging through tide races. A lot of it is big, open, flat crossings with big or calm waves or just rolling swells. It's not always just white water and spectacular. So what I wanted to do with this video, with this PowerPoint, is show you a video of my home ground, and this is where I learned to paddle. And I think it gives a different perspective of actually coastal paddling. So that was just that was at Loch Ticus and in Loch Sunart. It's a wonderful place to paddle. There's quite a strong tidal flow through that area, and basically you're paddling against the current. But it's beautiful. It's flat. It's calm. But at the end of the day, that's a coastal environment. It's beautiful. It's just so nice. This photograph that you got in front of you here is one of some people that have never been in a canoe before, but again, they're in a coastal environment. It's on Loch Sunart. It's very sheltered, but there's a tide there. This year we ran 80 canoe trips within 3 months, not just on this loch, but around this local area in Scotland. And each one of those required a really careful examination of tides and the weather. And there's certain equipment that I would always carry when I'm out out at sea, because it's essential safety equipment and good practice. So although it looks very benign, it's quite a serious environment, and I think once you start paddling in the sea, these are really good places to start. And I think it's once you start, you start building on stuff that you've learned through your basic sort of canoeing. Lots to learn around tides and the weather and shipping and things like that. So again, this is another canoeing trip. This was taken by a good friend of mine, and this is a trip we've run quite regularly. But again, a very benign picture. It's beautiful. This can get really rough, so this is one step up. And albeit it's a very, we're in a really good high pressure weather-wise, it's also quite a serious environment. So one thing I found is paddling a canoe at sea, it's really very useful if you can sail a canoe. And so that's a bog standard 16-foot prospector being sailed on Loch Sunart. It's got quite an extensive rig on it. So that rig is actually 35 square foot, and it's a Bermudan design, and it's really efficient, really good downwind. You can sail against into the wind. Effectively, I've turned that prospector into a little dinghy, and it's just a fabulous boat. I wouldn't really use that sail on that canoe in an expedition. I think it's too big. That's more of a just having a bit of fun sailing about for a day's sailing. Too big for an expedition. Although I'm sure there would be many people who would disagree with me, but I personally would much rather have a smaller sail. So that sort of sail is superb for an expedition. You may recognise that picture. That was taken from an expedition around Mull by myself and Ray Goodwin. We use sails a fair amount, and we use the endless river type with the canoe poles, and they are superb. All you need is a canoe pole, your sail, which is very small, and then you've got your paddle to steer, and you paddle and you steer with your blade, and it's just you haven't got the faff of a rudder or a lee board. They're very effective going downwind. They don't destabilize the boat much, and you can go crosswind. And some people will say you can go upwind, but I think that's debatable. But they're really good bit of expedition equipment, and they help you eat the miles. I think we did about 30 odd miles on that day. So this is one in action. This is a friend of mine, Beth. This is on Loch Sunart. We were in about 4.5 to 4.6 wind, and I love this bit of video. I think it just demonstrates how really effective a small sail can be. But we planned that trip then, the length of Loch Sunart in a day, and we just got blown down the loch. It was fabulous. that's one thing that you really need to take into consideration. I do it with every trip I go on. What direction's the wind going to be going in? I always need it in my favour. Well, I don't need it in my favour, but it's very nice to have. So different types of sailing rigs. I've tried it, all sorts. This is a log sail ketch. The trim on that boat, shocking. This is myself and Davis on an early training trip for going around the UK. We're on the Murray Firth, and we've got a 35 square foot sail at the front and a 14 at the back. That's really effective. It's a good setup. One great thing about this sail here, if it gets really windy, you can swap it around. So you can drop that sail, drop your big sail, put that one at the front, and that just gives you another option. And the other great thing about these sails is if it gets really windy, all you've got to do is one cleat, and you can drop the whole thing in an instant, and you can get your stability of the canoe very quickly, rather than trying to furl a big sail, which you have to with some of the bigger Bermudans. And so on this, I'm sure some of you have seen this video, certainly stills in the book. So this one here is going through the Pentland Firth. What we've done is we've dropped the big sail at the front, and we've just got a 14 square foot sail just at the front to give us a push through. It works quite effectively. So we're going through the Pentland Firth. We've got the wind pushing us, and we're paddling at the same time. It would be something else to worry about. It would just give that bit of extra instability. So I think it worked pretty well. Sorry, I just love this bit of video. You can see our sail, the main sail that's just laid on the deck there. And that to me that's just like having an extra pair of hands or an extra blade going in the boat. It just gives you that extra push without being too unstable on the canoe. One thing I learned very quickly was that I needed to find out about tides. Some of my first excursions on a canoe were really disastrous because I thought I would just paddle against the tide, and it just doesn't work that way. I started to plan everything around tides. This was one of my first journeys. This was where we'd actually planned the tides on our journey, and we'd planned them so we would get through tide races. So we're going around Anglesey, circumnavigating it in 2 days. And this is the first major tide race we came up at Preminoir. We got there just as the tide changed. It was like an engine starting against us was this. And we only just managed to paddle through. When we got to just at the other side of these breaking waves you can see here, we were getting pushed back into the tide race. And it was quite frightening, really. We were saved by wind that came behind us, and we raised the sail very quickly, and it pushed us on. We were extremely lucky, but it just sort of embedded to me how important it was to get the tides right. You've got all the energy in the sea, all the currents. If you get the tidal streams, if you catch the tidal streams, it's like being on a river, and it will push you along. And if you understand the tides and you understand where the tide races are going to be, you can get through those when they're going to be at the least dangerous or the least or the smallest. You know, the waves are a bit the smallest and less of a threat. There's so many reasons why it's important to know about tides, but there's a few other things that I've just got here which I think may be of interest. If you don't know what the tide's doing, then it's really difficult to know how far you need to pull your canoe out of the water. So this again is on Anglesey, and this is basically pulling the canoe out of the water so it's safe whilst we waited for the next tide. Without the knowledge, you just don't, without knowing where the tide's going to be and what state the tide's going to be in and how high it's going to come, you just don't know how high to bring the boat to make sure it's safe. This photograph is a really good illustration of, again, why it's important to get a really good knowledge of tides. This was taken at Orford Haven on the UK trip with myself and Davis, and we paddled down here when it was full, and we left our canoe at the end, which is probably half a mile away. The only way you could paddle back was at high tide, and if you didn't know what the tides were doing, then you'd be stuck. You could miss a half a day's paddling because there's no way you could get out. When we paddled around the UK, knowing what the tide was doing was very important, and sometimes we used very long painters. So we had a 25-meter painter here. Sometimes I'd tie two 25-meter painters together, secure the boat. One thing we did with this, that boat was very heavy, and to pull it up away from the shore, we used the vector pull. So you'd pull the rope here, and Davis would push at the back, or vice versa. I'd push at the back of the canoe, and that would give us a real hand in shifting this canoe, which was very heavy, and sometimes we're taking it up quite steep rock. If you don't know how high the tide's going to come, then your campsite could easily get swamped. There's been times when I've camped on salt marsh and the tide has almost been lapping at the tent door. So it's not just about traveling on the sea, it's also about on land and your sort of safety on the land. Right, I'm going to stop it there for a second. Has anyone got any questions before I carry on?
I do. I mean, just a quick one. You were mentioning those lines. You have an anchor in the back, because otherwise the boat starts drifting. I didn't get how you dealt with the drifting.
Drifting.
Yeah, you said you had those lines, but if you have a big line and the tide comes up, the boat starts drifting, or the canoe starts drifting. So
yeah, so what we do is we tether the boat, and if the tide did come up, then you'd just pull it up. You'd need to know, but it saves you just dragging the canoe. So sometimes you'd let the water come under the canoe, and then you'd pull it in.
I see. So you kept an eye on it. That's the answer.
Yeah, but not always. And it was quite often that we would, you go to sleep on a night time, and then you'd have you'd be half awake, worrying about the canoe, thinking it's going to get swept away. So yeah, always a worry.
I see.
It was my biggest nightmare, or one of my biggest nightmares would be to wake up to find the canoe had been swept away. Any more questions? Right, I shall go back to share screen. So we've gone from really calm waters, sailing canoes. This is what I found was a really interesting, really good crossing. I learned a lot on this one. This was with Katrina, my wife, and we went across to St Kilda. This was the view from the canoe for a lot of the time, and it was just, you couldn't see anything. This isn't land, that's just an endless horizon. I think it's the first time that a canoe's ever gone out to St Kilda. Certainly kayaks have gone, but never a canoe. Not in modern times anyway. Here is a video of Katrina on this journey.
Well, it turns out that what I said was St Kilda isn't St Kilda. It's just another little island next to Hesker. So now we've got to find St Kilda. Not got a clue where it is. It's got to be out there somewhere. 34 miles away-ish. Well, don't know about you, but I can't see anything out there. Well, after realising that what we thought was St Kilda wasn't St Kilda, we've been paddling for hours with absolutely nothing to see. And now there's a shape in the distance that we hope is the island. Well, the forecast was for force 4 to 5 winds all day, dropping to 2 to 3 later on. We'll be lucky if it's touched a 2 all day. It's only just started to pick up now, and it's about 5:30. So our 8 o'clock finish is now looking like a 10 o'clock finish. We're both knackered, but hey, the end is in sight. We've only got the pound to do. Oh yeah, and we've both been sick. Colin managed to get all the way around Britain without throwing up. And a single day out, just on a little day trip, and he throws up.
And I didn't even get it over the side.
Did you not? Oh, you minger. Well, here it is. This is St Kilda. We're just coming in to land very shortly in the bay here. It's now just after 9 o'clock at night. We set off at 6:30 this morning. It's been a long, hard day, but we're here, which is amazing.
Yeah, so the St Kilda, that was a really difficult crossing in terms of the weather was perfect in many ways, apart from there was very little wind to get out there. Very sort of big swell. I was seasick. Katrina was seasick. Dehydrated. We both had dry suits on, warm clothing. We were expecting to be, you know, we were going out into the Atlantic Ocean. It was a big crossing. Katrina needed to go to the toilet, which was a big issue because she had a dry suit on and couldn't get a dry suit off. That caused a load of stress. I have a fabulous video which I'd love to share with you, but I can't do that because it's obscene. Not visually, but what she's saying is quite obscene. It was a physically demanding, mentally demanding crossing. Taking a crossing like that on, I was very fortunate to have the UK circumnavigation behind me. The fact that I've paddled on in a coastal environment for some time, and that's where I've learned to paddle. So I was very lucky. The one thing I will say is that a lot of my, in fact, nearly all my big trips have been as in a tandem canoe, and I really enjoy paddling tandem, and I think it helps it when you're out at sea. I think it's great. It gives you an extra bit of oomph should you need it. There's a lot of teamwork. You don't have to worry about the other canoe going anywhere. But that said, myself and Ray had a fabulous trip around Mull, so you can paddle solo if you wish. You know, it's up to you. But I do like being a tandem canoe with somebody else, and it means that I can blame them when it goes wrong. So, does anyone have any questions about St Kilda or big crossings in general?
Yeah, Colin, we've got a couple of questions come in. The first one is from James. So, James, if you could ask your question, please.
On the crossing to St Kilda,
Yeah.
obviously you said that seasickness played a part in it. Was it something you'd experienced before? And you mentioned that it dehydrated you. How did you deal with it, and how would you plan on deal with it again in the future?
Yeah, I've been seasick in big boats before, and I felt queasy in a canoe. I've never actually been sick, and when I've been properly seasick, it's just the worst thing ever. You honestly, you feel like you feel like you're going to die. So yeah, it's really debilitating. I think the sea state changed quite a few times, so it was only when it was a really rolling, lolloping sort of lazy swell, that's when I was sick. So it didn't last too long. So how would I deal with it? They reckon ginger's very good. I think I would drink loads of ginger tea. That's my thing at the minute, ginger and lemon tea. And apart from that, I'm not sure there's much else you can do. There's probably all sorts of remedies, magnets on your wrists and stuff. But other than that, I don't think there's much you can actually do. So in terms of dehydration, I do drink a lot when we're in a canoe. And I think that helps. But we were hot and sweating a lot. So, but it's okay for fellas, because fellas can drink as much as they want, because it's easy for a fella to have a pee. It's not quite so easy for a lady. Does that sort of answer you?
It does very much so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Andy Orton's got a question for you.
Hi, Colin.
Hello, Andy.
I'm just really asking when things are possible again, what are you beginning to scheme and line up for the next challenge? Because you've got to be due for one soon.
Yeah, Andy, I've thought long and hard about this. I think that going around the UK was great. It was a good challenge, and I loved it. But it was hard, and it became quite stressful. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I loved it, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But I often went along thinking I would like to spend more time at this place. I would like to explore that bay. I would like to paddle like you saw in that first video, rather than just be charging onwards and onwards just with that view. So big journeys like that, I'm not sure. I could be tempted. St Kilda, fabulous. That was just a one-day thing. I would like to go to St Kilda again, but that's problematic. The Western Isles of Scotland really appealed to me. I would love to circumnavigate the Western Isles, but take my time. We tried to cross the North Sea. It's the most boring journey I think I've ever done in my. I say boring. No, it was quite terrifying at times. It was really tiring, but there was nothing, apart from sea, wind farms, and terrifying big ships. It was just horrible. So, I think what I will do now, and I think it's my maturity coming in. I think I'm just going to put my ego to one side, and I'll probably do something that will just be a fabulous paddle, but just enjoyable. Life's too short just for huge, monstrous crossings and things. But they are good, don't get me wrong. I could be tempted.
Yeah, they hold different different levels of challenge, but yeah, taking a bit more time to enjoy stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe Norway.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm one of these, sometimes I get these urges to do something silly. It's crazy, but I've not had nerves like that for a while now. I've got a new hobby. It's I'm pressing flowers now. That's anything else?
Yeah, Colin, there's a good few questions.
No.
For you, so I'm afraid you're here for a while. Simon, you've got a question.
Yeah, Colin, on your crossing to St Kilda, on your rear mast, you had a box of some description. What was that, please, mate?
Yeah, that's any ideas? Anyone know? Anyone out there know what it is? No?
A radar reflector?
Yay! Mark. Yes, it is. It's a radar reflector. How effective they are, I don't know.
Awesome, thank you. So
just to explain further, it's to increase your radar, your footprint in the ocean, so another ship can see you a bit better on their radar. Everyone tells me that they're not particularly good, and if you've got them so low down as you do in a canoe, then you might as well not bother. But you can try, can't you?
Okay, the next question, Colin, is from Matt Trawford.
It was just a quick question of when you're doing these crossings, how do you get back from where you've gone to? Like, how do you get your stuff back? Do you cross back over the sea, or do you? I just wonder how you get back.
Yeah, so St Kilda we paddled back, so it was there and back. Yeah, and I wouldn't plan a trip to. No, in fact, I'm lying to you. I would, because if we'd gone across to the Netherlands as we'd hoped to when we were doing the North Sea crossing, then I wouldn't have paddled back.
No,
that'd have been too much.
If you did though, like get there and you're not going to paddle back, how do you get your stuff back then? Like your canoe home drive, is it? Or?
Yeah, I suppose so. You just you work out logistics. It's like a massive shuttle.
Yeah.
No, you just work it out, and then decide how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Cool.
And hopefully you'll have some good friends.
Yeah.
With a big car and a roof rack.
Okay. The next question from Steve Finch.
Sorry, Colin. Yes, with the St Kilda trip, how long were you out there for, and what was the crossing like on the way back?
Okay, so it was 15 and a half hours out, or thereabouts. And the crossing on the way back was, I think it was about 12 hours or so. The crossing on the way back was much easier. We had a bit of a wind, and it was yeah, just a nice, easy ride back. So, and in fairness, it was psychologically easier. You've got a big landmass in front of you that you can see. You can see the Western Isles. You're not just looking at an endless horizon of nothing for a long time. So much easier on the way back.
And how long were you in St Kilda for?
So we went out there. We spent the first night on the island at the campsite. Then we had a further night, and then we went back the following morning. So basically one full day.
Good. You had the chance to have a good look around then.
It was fab. Well, not as much as I'd like, but you need to catch the weather. You need to get the weather when it's right, and the weather was right, so we had to leave, and we left with a tailwind. It was fabulous.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next question from Robert, please.
Yeah, just wondering how much use, Colin, did you need to make of VHF radio on your crossings and on the whole round UK trip, and how many batteries did you pack and go through on the whole thing?
Right, so VHF radios, they're sort of integral battery, and they get charged. So, and you can take, depends what model you have, you can get spare batteries and you can swap them over. But generally, we just charged. We had 2 radios. They'd constantly be on charge when they weren't being used. Yeah, I mean, they're essential. You need to, if you're going to paddle at sea, you need to do a VHF radio course, and they're very important from updating the Coast Guard, to tell them what you're doing, to contacting other ships. If you were ever involved in a rescue, you would be expected to be able to communicate. Things like a couple of occasions we have paddled into military ranges, and you've had the range people come up to you and they expect you to go to a radio channel. And so it's general communication at sea, and I think it's one of those things that you need to learn how to use and take with you. One really important thing for me, though, is that you're a canoe at sea, and people will, I think some people freak out and they see a canoe and they think, what on earth is that doing out there? And they will contact the Coast Guard, and this has happened to me on several occasions. And it's only through me having a VHF radio that I've been able to avert a big search and rescue for a tiny craft lost at sea, because I've been able to shout up and say that, no, actually, everything's cool. We're a canoe. We know what we're doing, and just don't worry. So, yeah, really important. One thing I would say about St Kilda, though, the VHF radio in terms of the Coast Guard, I didn't have any comms out there at all with the Coast Guard. My only chance of using that in an emergency, if we, had a catastrophic failure at sea or something and it started to sink, then the only communication I would have had would have been with any ships that were nearby, and there weren't any. So it's pretty useless there. But again, I wouldn't be without it.
Well, that's really handy. Thanks very much. In terms of the charger that you were using while you were at sea, I've only been used to sort of switching batteries, but obviously having something on charge all the time really makes sense. And what are you using to charge your batteries as you're going?
Well, generally I wouldn't when I'm going, and in fairness, I would take 2 VHF radios and with spare batteries, but as soon as I finish the trip, I would put them on charge back at in the van or wherever else. The other thing is, if you've got 2 VHF radios, you only need one at any one time, so you don't need them on all the time. Does that help?
That really helps. Yeah, thanks. Batteries don't seem to last too long on mine, but just interested to know on that one. But yeah, thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so following on on the Coast Guard theme, Sue's got a question for you.
Hi, Colin.
Hello, Sue.
I've just been imagining what it would be like to be a fly on the wall when you make one of your phone calls to the Coast Guard and describe what you're intending doing. What sort of reaction do you get from them? Is it just total disbelief, or do they think you're mad, or what?
No, I think they learn to put this professional air on, and they're just very matter of fact about it. But they do ask quite some probing questions at times about, have you got all the right safety equipment, and they may ask you about, VHF radios, tracking devices, onshore support, that sort of stuff. The biggest reaction I had was when we were going through the Pentland Firth. And I contacted the Coast Guard, actually as we were on the water, and the Coast Guard was really, it was a lady who was, she was quite shocked actually. She had me reporting to them every hour. And honestly, I was like a naughty schoolboy having to give them a situation report every hour. But no, generally they're very professional people. And I actually don't think it's their place to pass judgment. I'm sure they imagine me, with a court jester's hat on and a frogman's mask, But other than that, I think they're very professional.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Colin. So Pauline's iPad's got a question. I don't think he looks like a Pauline, but
No, it looks like a Jeremy.
Jeremy.
So I've got 2 questions.
Oh no.
Would you ever consider using outriggers when you're at sea?
I've considered it lots, and I've always decided not to. And the reason being is I can sail a canoe without outriggers, and I'm quite happy about my ability to do that. They get in the way when you're trying to paddle a canoe.
Yeah. And
I try. I'm a canoeist. I'd like to see myself more as a canoeist than a canoe sailor, or and I think if you're not careful, you just keep straying into the realms of being a dinghy rather than a.
Yeah.
Some people swear by them, and it's great. If you want to sail without riggers, that's great.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the traditional lines of a canoe.
Yeah. Okay. And the other question, going out to St Kilda, when you can't see where you're going, it's completely white. What stops you losing all your self-control and self-ability and awareness of where you're going? Why don't you get completely scared and give up? What keeps you? How do you know where you're going? Why don't you just lose all?
I'd love to give you some really cool answer with this, but really it's just my Garmin GPS and I just follow.
Really? Yes.
But it's not quite as simple as that. I have a Garmin GPS. I know exactly what coordinates my ship's compass will be on, my deck compass, and you just know that you're not going to see things for a while, and you just have to relax with things. You just have to think, well, this is going to be a long day. I'm going to be out at sea. That island's not going to be on the horizon for a while, so just relax.
Yeah.
And I think that came across in the videos. Myself and Katrina were really in a pretty serious situation there, but we're pretty chilled with it.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, GPS.
Yeah.
Okay, Colin, I've got a question actually, but I'd like to direct my question to Katrina, if she would. How did it feel for you being on the land support? I've read the book, and there's a few bits and pieces where you said how anxious you were, but how was it really for you a lot of the time? And in the book you say that it was a pain when Colin and Davis came back stinking and smelling out your van and disturbing your peace. But how was it for you? Because it's a long old time, isn't it, doing support?
Yeah, so do you know, a lot of the time I didn't have time to be worried or anything like that, because I had a lot to do. I had the dogs with me, so I had the dogs to look after. I had to keep the van topped up with water. I mean, the amount of water that they were getting through with showers and stuff, you know, it was maybe every other day I was having to find somewhere to fill the van up. So I was quite busy. You know, I wasn't sort of sitting in the van doing nothing for days on end. Although, I mean, early on in the trip, there was sort of maybe 3, 4, 5 days at a time when the boys would be out at sea. But even then, you know, plenty to do. Just keeping things topped up. And then, I mean, someone was asking the question before about batteries. I had batteries on charge in the van for them all the time. You know, when I saw them, they would give me the dead batteries. I'd give them fresh batteries. Same with their clothing. They'd give me the dirty clothing and I'd give them fresh clothing. So there was always stuff to be doing. And if there wasn't stuff to be doing, I relaxed. I took my dogs for a walk and I just chilled, because, you know, there was going to be a lot of time when I couldn't just chill. Does that sort of answer things?
Yeah, that's thank you. I think the support function is the one that a lot of people don't realise how important it is and how stressful it is. So a lot of admiration for you for doing that as well.
Thank you.
Do you want me to finish my presentation?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Right, okay, I'll crack on. Just bear with me. So, just a few things I'd talk about. And this is myself and Katrina's canoe before we went across to Mull. And you can see how well packed it is, or how tightly packed it is, and the various bits of equipment we've got. I'll go through a few of those now. So I'm trying to think the best way to do this. One of the most important things is having your equipment accessible. So in that bag there, I've got spare clothing, drinks, VHF radio, spare batteries, everything I might need close to hand. I've got a flask up there. Katrina's got one there. We've got our sails. My repair kit is handy because I've had experiences of things breaking in the boat as we've been going along, and then it's been in the barrel. This here is a camera, but I have something similar, I'll show you in a minute, which is basically a pelly case with a stove in it. So if we want to, as we're going along, we can brew up. Or you can even make food. You can make a cup of soups or dried some pasta, I don't know, pot pasta things. So yeah, it's a bit of an art, just getting to know exactly what you need on the journey. So again, that's one of our bags that's got everything in it. That's me and Davis on the UK trip. That's the radar reflector we were on about. Yeah, wheels are important on various things. on various landings that you have. You can see on this one we've got a partial spray deck. Spray decks on canoes are they're okay. They're great. They will keep water out, but they make bailing difficult. They can make paddling awkward. So we tried to keep this open as much as we could. That is actually the bottom of the canoe as we're going across the North Sea, and it's constant filling up with water. Again, there's my drink in its cycle holder. There's probably snacks in these, spare batteries, head torches, because it's going to get dark at some point, and possibly when you're out at sea. Airbags, loads of airbags in a canoe. All the major luggage is actually strapped down in barrels, and the barrels provides buoyancy. So this bailing bucket, really important. That's just an essential piece of kit, and I use it for everything from bailing to weeing. It's just so important. This is the canoe. This is just as we got it. This is the UK trip canoe. Buoyancy, just so important. So on this, we've got front and rear airbags, side airbags. Then we had a center airbag put into it. Then we had barrels that would lash down. So everything in the canoe just keeps it more buoyant. So very important. If you're not careful at sea and you capsize, you end up in a situation where you right the canoe, but you can never fill it. You can never empty it of water because water keeps lapping in, or waves keep coming over. So you need so much buoyancy in it that if push came to shove, you could paddle it, even when it's totally swamped. Here's a question for you all. Could you see that picture? Hello?
We can see you now. You picked.
Oh no, that's worse.
Where is it? That's what we have to answer.
Yeah, go on. Let's have a competition. Where is that? There's certain people there that should know exactly where that is.
Yeah, there's so many clues, aren't there?
Where's Ray? Does Ray know where that is? Is he still online?
Yeah, he's by the side of you.
Ray, does Ray know where that is?
Somewhere in the dark. I've been to too many places, Colin. They all seem alike to me now.
Anyone that gets it can have a free book.
What if you already have one?
No, this book, not mine.
Men I Straight?
Yay! Yeah, and the bridge? The lights?
I can't remember the name of the bridge. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's no book then. Sorry. Good try.
Oh, well, hey, halfway's half my style.
Britannia Bridge?
Yeah, that'll do. So anyway, I'll go back to my share screen. Paddling in the dark down the Menai Straits. The thing for me on this one is that as you're paddling at sea, you need to be prepared to be paddling at night time. You need torches handy. You need some sort of visibility, and you need to have the contingency for it. This is us. This is myself and Katrina on our North Sea. It was just getting dark. We were about 45 miles into our crossing at that point, and it was starting to get dark, and ahead of us was a wind farm, and it got really quite hairy. The wind farm was built on really shallow land, shallow seabed, and the waves were crashing over it, and all we could hear were the waves crashing. And Katrina describes the waves as being like Scooby-Doo waves. It was one of the. It was really worrying. We got 60 miles into it, The tide had turned against us. The tide was flowing really quite fast. And we realised that we weren't going to actually make this crossing. So we turned round, or we changed course, and we headed off we landed at Cromer. So we went from Cleethorpes straight out for 60 miles. Then we turned to Cromer, and we covered 100 miles at sea, and it took us 29 hours. That's a long time to be in a canoe. And so we needed all our provisions to hand. Is there any questions on my last?
Yep, Mark's got a question, and then Harry.
Hi, Colin.
Hello.
What kind of food did you use on your trip? Was it dehydrated, boiled in the bags? Did Katrina cook for you?
What sort of soups?
Food. Belly.
What, on the big long trip, on the crossings?
Yes.
Right. So we've got these chemical stoves, which are like mess tins that you have a pouch that goes. You've got two mess tins. One goes into the other. Then you have a pouch that you just add water to it. I think it's got lime or something in it, and it gets very hot. And then you can boil your food. So if you've got something like a rice pudding or a pre-prepared chili, you can heat it up. So we tried those. The only problem is we both felt pretty queasy, bit of seasickness coming on, so we weren't particularly hungry. So we just end up not eating much at all, just snacks and things like that.
Okay, thanks.
So that was it generally.
Harry, you got a question?
Yeah, hi Colin. Would you consider on your longer crossings potentially ever using kind of rafting canoes together to give you guys a chance to have breaks and that sort of things more easily?
Yeah, that's a really good question, whether to raft canoes. And yeah, I think it's a great thing. If I was to be crossing, say across to Norway or something, or across to the Netherlands and trying to get across there again, and I was with another canoe, that would certainly be an option. I think it's a great thing, because then you could relax and you could effectively each boat supporting the other. So yeah, I think it's something I would consider. The big issue I have though is generally it's just me and Katrina on our own, or me and somebody else on a boat. So there's nobody to raft with.
Yeah, fair enough.
A big Calmac ferry or something like that. Thank you.
Jeff's got a question.
Hi, Colin. Did you have hassles with finding campsites on the UK trip? If you read similar books, you read that people get moved on by the police and get hassled by people. Did you have any problems with that on your trip?
Not in Scotland, no. In parts of the UK we did. I say hassles. We didn't particularly have hassles. It was just there was nowhere to camp really without. You stop at somewhere like Bridlington, then there's not many places to camp. It's a town, isn't it? It's the same at Sunderland and places. They're just cities. You're not gonna. You'd look a bit silly having a tent up there. Or you could bivvy, I suppose. But we were very fortunate in Ide Katrina. So when we had things like that, situations where we couldn't camp, I could go in the van. So no, we didn't. There was one beach we went to Lady Step Beach, was a private beach, and I felt that was in South Wales, and I was really angry actually, because we paddled all the way across to it, got to it, find it's a private beach, so we paddled from Lundy to right across to Lady Step, and you couldn't camp there, so you think, well, surely people can't own a beach, but apparently they do. So it meant another 2 hour paddle. Sorry, 2 mile paddle, not 2 hour paddle. To find
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, John Clark's got a couple of questions.
Hello, Colin. Couple of quick ones, really. Do you have a kind of a? I'm going to use it a risk management process, crossing and turn round. And the other one was, what's your probably mentally hardest challenge or crossing or paddle that you've done through trips and expeditions?
Okay, so in terms of the risk assessment sort of thing, yeah, I mean, you need to know yourself, don't you, what you're going to be capable, what sort of thing you're capable of doing, and you learn that generally through building things up. So before the UK trip, I did a few testers. I did a few things to see whether it was whether it's possible, whether I could spend so much time in a canoe. So we did the trip round Anglesey, we went round Skye, did a few other big trips. So that gave me an understanding of what I personally was capable of, and then you start to look at what you'd like to do, and you need everything in your favour. So when we went to St Kilda, it was in a time of really good high pressure. You know, weather's perfect, so you need the weather on your side. You need to be physically fit. You need the right equipment, and then you need to give it a bash. But oh yeah, and the tidal planning and the ships, and you know, is what you're looking at doing really feasible? So going across to the Netherlands from Cleethorpes is a 200-mile crossing. I don't honestly know if I could do that. You know, we did 100 miles. I was exhausted at the end of it. If we'd stayed out in open sea, would we have just ended up in no man's land drifting about? Possibly. I don't know. But the result is we still had it in us that we could self-rescue after 60 miles and paddle 40 miles out. So, and it was a paddle. It was tough. It was really wallowing, really no sailing going on. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
So,
no, thank you for that. I just, you know, thinking about going to St Kilda, I'd even think twice about that if it had Sunseeker written on the side of the boat, let alone in a canoe, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of the most difficult challenges I've done, I think, I don't know, they've all got their moments. You know, Devizes to Westminster canoe race is hard. First time I did, myself and Katrina did that. We struggled. Some of the crossings with Davis were tough. The Orford Haven to Joss Bay across the Thames estuary, that was really tough. They all have their moments. You're always relieved to get out the canoe at the other end.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Colin. That's it's been an incredible chat, and really enjoyed it. I hope everybody else has, and I hope people have been inspired to go and do something different and take a challenge of their own on after this corona we're going through. Thank you very much again, Colin. Thank you, Katrina, for letting him play this evening. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing some of you next week.
This was a With Dave production.